Welcome to the Outer Worlds. This game was released on Epic about a year ago, and nobody seemed to play it. Why? It looks good. What's wrong with this RPG? Well, it finally came out on Steam, so I bought it and took a look, and it's the towns. Yeah, these are awful towns. They're action game towns, but this is an RPG. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how to make an RPG town. Let's go ahead and analyze Edgewater here, and pull out its failings and rip it apart and talk about how it might have been put together a little better. Hopefully that will help us to build our own towns in our own games. So the first thing we have to realize is that the player is going to need to be pulled in. There's two steps to pulling the player into any given town, and the first step is to show them what the town is about. The town needs a hook, and in this case the town has a hook on paper. It's a cannery town. It's entirely dedicated to fish packing. But what we see when we come in is a cantina. No, that's not going to work. You want the cantina off to the side. The fish packing town should have a fish packery right here, front and center. And if you're worried that it would make it hard to go around the fish packing center or whatever, just put a giant arch. Have the fish packing center have a giant arch, and that could be like a loading arch where there's cranes coming down. It'd be super cool. We would immediately know that we're in a factory town, a fish packing town. We're going to be dealing with like unions and stuff. That's the sort of thing it's prepping us for. Instead, we get a cantina, which doesn't make any sense for a lot of reasons. First, it doesn't make any sense because there are no visitors to this town. It's a cannery town. Yeah. It's entirely a town where workers move from their house to the canneries and back. There's not a whole lot of visitors, so the cantina is just for factory workers. It wouldn't be here facing the entrance of the town because nobody goes out that door. All the workers are here in this walled-off town, and so is the cannery. Similarly, the cantina doesn't have any actual hooks in terms of getting you involved with the town, which is the second step. The first step is to make sure the player understands what the town is about, so we'd show them a cannery. The second step is to actually push them into the situation and get them involved. Normally that would be done via a cutscene or a pretty nice little emotional side quest of some kind. In this case, there's nothing. You go into the cantina and they don't have any sort of things going on here. You can talk to this guy. He's kind of an interesting character, but it just ends. He doesn't pull you in. He just is kind of interesting for a little while, and that's it. You can do the same thing with Amelia, same problem. She doesn't really pull you into the town. She doesn't say, hey, could you deliver this booze to back there on Trebuchet Street or whatever. She just says, yeah, this is a script company, this is a company tavern. I guess you can buy stuff if you want. Exciting. Way to pull us in. Great job. In addition, there are things off to the sides of the entrance. Now, if you are entering a town, I would say it's even odds that the players will try and explore off to the sides before they reach whatever the main point of interest is. If you want to adjust those odds, put the main point of interest on a hill, with a cliff or something, or have them be locked or facing the other direction or something, so that the players don't immediately start to try and investigate them. If you do allow the players to investigate them, make sure that they are going to pull the player into the town. For example, in this case, we've got a sick house. This is a place for all the characters who have the plague to go, which could be very interesting, right? The town is suffering from the plague, and it's a fish cannery. Yeah, I can put one and one together. But that means that this place should pull us into the situation. We should get, like, side quests. Can you get us some medicine? Can you investigate allegations that, it was everybody who worked in Factory Zone C, or that sort of stuff? Nope. This lady talks to you very, very briefly, and that's it. Great. Over here is a barber shop. The barber here is also the mortician. That's pretty interesting. I like that idea. It's also located pretty well. That'll help to pull us into the town, except that the only plot point in this barber shop has to do with an undertaker outside the town. So it doesn't get us into the town at all. It gets us back out into the muddy world out there. Well, that was a bad choice. That undertaker out there shouldn't be giving out quests in the first place. It's just a distraction because it's the only quests we get. So really, we needed to put that quest in here somewhere. We needed to make sure that the quest pulls the player into the town. That's why towns have so many side quests, you know. They don't exist to get you rewards or to pointlessly fill up time. The point of a side quest is to make sure that you are introduced to characters that help you understand the way that the town should be and how the town should work. If we meet with the guy in here and his hand is injured, we should be able to try and heal his hand or something. But more than that, that should really pull us into the situation of the town. So he should be like, yeah, you know, a lot of us got injured back in '06 or whatever. You know, I want to buy my buddies a beer. Could you take this beer over to my buddies down in the sick bay or down in the sick room or whatever? By getting us involved, by creating a web of connections throughout the town, that helps us to get into the story. And then when the town is threatened or we face a bad guy, we understand immediately that this is a place that should exist. This is a place that we have a vested interest in making not explode. And there are a million ways that you can get the player involved, from just having good side quests like that all the way up to, oh, you go into the cantina, and then as you approach the bar, oh, cutscene, the door swings partway closed, and then it gets pushed back open as, you know, Baron Stugelgonk comes in and is like, yes, have you decided to sell me your bar yet? I own the west side of town and I need this bar to finish my collection. Whatever, right? The whole point is that everything that happens socially within a town exists to pull the player into the town or into the town's related quest elements. There's zero reason to talk to someone and have them not pull us into the town. If they don't pull us into the town, the talk is wasted. Give you an example. Oh, look, this is pretty cool. A named character under a street lamp in an alley at night. Oh, what's she gonna say? Is she gonna say, I don't do this sort of thing for locals, but if you're not a local, I suppose I could sell you a little something? Or is she gonna say, you know, I need to do this thing, and maybe you'd be interested in helping me?
I've got some time. Oh, I'm an actuary. That means I keep tabs on a worker's living expenses. How much it costs to feed, clothe, shelter, bury, and replace your average human worker. Technically, I'm employed by the Spacer's Choice Department of Human Resources.
Great. Good talk. She is, I think, actually involved in a side quest. I think she's the one that told me to get her medicine instead of getting some old dying guy medicine. But why would the old dying guy want medicine? I believe this is his house, actually. Yeah, here he is. Why would this old dying guy want medicine from this house? Shouldn't the whole medicine plot work right here out of the sick room, the sick house, where all of these all of these threes of people are lying there dying? Why would you put the medicine plot in some random house in the middle of nowhere instead of in this massive sick house directly off of the main entrance? And even then, the side quest is a real pain in the ass because it says you should leave the town to go do this side quest. That's not pulling us into the town, that's pushing us out of the town. Side quests from outside the town, they can tell us to come into the town. But once you're in the town, the side quests shouldn't send you out of the town because you're not going to want to leave until you've explored the whole town, and by then you will have completely forgotten about the side quests. I mean, you can do it, but don't expect the player to remember anything or be emotionally invested in any way. Another problem is that these towns should be oriented around being explorable, and just from a layout perspective, this town is not. One of the most critical things you can have to make a town more explorable is a verticality element, some kind of hill or valley or something, because it will keep the player oriented as they're moving through. You go into a house, you come out of a house, you're not quite sure which way you were going or which way you were facing. So you look around and you see, oh, look, there's the hill, and the packery is up on the hill, the cannery is up on the hill. So I know that that way is the cannery, and I can just do like a clean sweep clockwise around the cannery or whatever. Without that, everything just looks samey. Maybe if like one of these central streets was made of a different material or something, that would help. But with so few interesting elements to look at and, notable rises or falls and how the town is laid out, it's very hard to tell what you're looking at. And that makes it super easy to get lost, even in a place as small as this. In addition, where does this cannery go? This is supposed to be the heartblood of the town, right? So why is it positioned in such a way where it's clearly barely doing any shipping at all? There are some boxes lined up, but there's no sign that there's any sort of cranes or freight or anything. It just doesn't sell me on the idea that this is a cannery town. It almost feels like this cannery is out of business. It's supposed to be a little bit close to out of business, but at some point they probably would have had a business and they would have put in cranes and had maybe trolley tracks or something. But nope, none of that. That would be too much personality. So let's talk a little bit about the non-social elements. As I've said, when we come into the towns, we're here for the social stuff, and that's going to mean that everybody we talk to should try and sell us on the nature of the town as a social thing. They should try and pull us into the town. We should want to get to know people because they have a life. That means a minimum of those kinds of generic conversations and a maximum of things like, oh yeah, my daughter, she did this and that and the other thing. But it's not just social stuff. There are a lot of times when the player is going to want a little bit of a change-up, a little bit of a different sort of pattern of involvement. They can't just sit there and talk all the time. And that's when you have secondary play elements that you scatter throughout the setting. And this is also a big-time fail when it comes to this game. The most basic secondary element is loot. So when you want loot, loot is a way for a player to get rewarded for things that aren't really social. Like back here, we can be like, oh look, we can get some stuff here. Technically that's stealing, but it's basically just loot, right? And then we can just keep looking around. We'll get some loot here and there. It won't be too bad, right? This is fine. It's loot. But the thing about this game is that the loot is not terribly well done. It's scattered in places that don't really make any sense. I don't know why anybody would keep heavy ammo on the roof outside their apartment. It doesn't add anything to the game world. Normally when you find loot in games like this, it's specifically there to make you understand the lives of the people within the town. And unless the lives of the people within this town involve regularly shooting at people from this rooftop, that doesn't make any sense. And if it does involve people regularly shooting people from this rooftop, there should be more stuff out here to help sell that idea. But it's even worse than that because there's more than just loot, right? Another possible kind of play is thieving, stealing stuff. And that does exist in this game, but it also doesn't. So in this game, stealing stuff is limited by magic lockpicks. So if I look at this, I've only got 3 magic lockpicks, and this is going to burn all 3 of my magic lockpicks. So if I do it, this is basically the only thing I'm going to be able to pick in the entire city. So I picked it, and I'm thinking, okay, well, we're going to find some cool stuff, right? We just picked something cool. What's back here? Loot. Ammo? Great. Ammo. Seriously? Ammo? Really? And a gun, a generic revolver. So what they're thinking is, okay, well, the player, spent 3 lockpicky units. They should get 200 credits worth of loot, right? That's a good exchange. But I'm not here for loot. I'm here because I'm breaking into someone's house. That's the fantasy you want to sell me on. That's the secondary play you want to sell me on. Ooh, look at the sneaky guy sneaking into someone's house. Obviously, this room should be something that has something to do with the nature of the bar or the characters in the bar, something incriminating maybe, or a room with a diary in it that's like, I'm so sick of these workers. Why can't I be a pilot like I've always wanted to be? Something that makes me feel like I've gone somewhere private, instead of just, oh, here's some money because lockpicking should give you money. That's the nature of the mechanical exchange. And it's even worse than that. Here is the barbershop, right? Here in the barbershop, I can show you how thievery works. Oh, look! Oh, I stole something! Oh, no! Oh, he doesn't care. I'm gonna steal something. Hello? Nope, nothing. Yeah, none of the characters move around at all. There's a couple of minor NPCs that move around a little bit, but nobody inside the buildings. Here's some more stuff I can steal, but I can't steal it because he actually has a clear view of it. So if I steal this, I'll get caught, even if I'm sneaking. I can't lure him away. I can't put a bucket on his head. The only thing I could do would maybe shoot him in the face. Who knows? But this means that there's no thievery gameplay. The thievery gameplay is literally exactly the same as the basic looting gameplay, which means they're not considered different. In a game like Skyrim, the thievery side of things exists, and you can say it's not a very good mechanic, but it is a mechanic that gets you involved. The characters move around. They try and catch you. If you go into their back rooms, they'll follow you. These are things that make it interesting to try and be a thief in that game. That's why in that game, that is a mechanic that will help to put you in the town. That'll help you feel like you're in the town for a reason, like you're making progress as you move through the town and suss things out and figure out, oh, can I steal from the shopkeeper? Can I steal from that lady over there? It keeps your interest up. It's an alternate mechanic. Just being able to loot stuff in a, with red letters instead of white letters, that's not a different mechanic. Of course, looting is also not the only mechanic that you could use in a game like this to try and sell the city. Another option would be to be able to buy property or run businesses, like in Yakuza 0. That city held a lot of really good, dense interest for me because I was allowed to buy chunks of the city and run chunks of the city. And it wasn't very complicated. It wasn't like it was the focus of the game. I mean, it sort of was in certain regards, but it was one of those things where, oh, you buy that shop and now technically it's yours, but it's not a big deal. There are also other mechanics, like, you could have social mechanics, like in Disco Elysium. I mean, technically those are the main mechanics, but still, that allows you to get a lot more out of a town's arrangement when you have a secondary mechanic of some sort. Just make sure your secondary mechanic is, actually a mechanic. The last thing I want to mention is that towns need to feel alive, and this town just doesn't. None of the characters move. None of the characters have any strong opinions on the matter. Physical movement is one thing, like having a day-night cycle or whatever. That's going to be different from game to game. Obviously, some games you're going to never see the shopkeeper leave their shop. But they should still have goals and desires and wants, because those will allow you to tell the player how the town is. If the shopkeeper hates being the shopkeeper, that says something about what it's like to be a shopkeeper in this town. But when everybody is just like, golly gee, I guess I'm going to die of the plague, and that's it, it's like, that's not a want or a desire or anything. That's just exposition. It's not good enough. If people are dying of the plague and you walk into the town, there are two possibilities as to what they should do. The first is rush at you and be like, oh my gosh, are you a doctor? And the second is rush away from you and say, oh, you need to keep back or you will get the plague. This strange situation where it's like, oh yeah, we'll just, keep working. No big deal, I guess. I guess it kind of sells the idea of the town as being really company oriented and, But if nobody in the town acts like a human, then it's not a town of humans, is it? Might as well just be filled with robots. Even then, we could make it more interesting than this. And you know what the worst part about this is? It's so fucking pretty. There's a lot of really cool touches. Like this. It's just a shame.
Another day at the cannery.
You don't say. Good thing. I'm really glad. That really helped me feel like you are humans that have goals and exist in a town. Well, that's more than enough. Feel free to leave some comments below with your own tips about RPG making or towns you thought were particularly good or bad. I think it's a really interesting conversation, and it's not something we cover very often. Have a good one.